Hey team, today I want to talk about culture. And really, when I'm talking about culture, it's what's the behavior of people here at Zen. By the end of this, I'm going to have chatted through a few things: personal development, growth, and also finding your purpose. Let's start with personal development. What is it? Well, I think a good way to frame it is focusing on the long term versus the short term. So, what do I mean by that? Exercise versus just sitting around on the lounge, creating content versus just consumption, and getting promoted is a long term process, not a short term one, because it's essentially about replacing yourself. You build up those underneath you, they can take over your role. That frees you up to do bigger and better things. Job descriptions here for roles at Zen, we actually always focus on the outcomes, not tasks. This is an important mindset approach. Think about where you want to go, not just the little activity day to day. By the way, nothing wrong with to-do lists. I have one, use it every day. It's great for setting priorities and keeping me focused. But overall, I want to be thinking about the outcome for the client, for the business of Zen and Zen Create, and for myself personally. You should be doing the same. One of the things around personal development is this idea of training, and many companies have personal development plans, and that's all good. You can easily program in training people on skills. Learning skills is easy. Changing behaviors is hard. Behavior change normally has to come from the person themselves. We can provide an environment that encourages that, but it has to come from the person themselves. And that's why at Zen, I don't actually schedule personal development sessions where I sit down and have programs with the team every quarter or half year. That has to come from each person. They need to take initiative. That's a behavior change in itself. They need to work out where they need to go in terms of providing outcomes for our clients, for Zen, and for themselves. Then they come to me to tell me how I can help. I check in one-to-one with all team members regularly, but it's up to them to tell me what they need. How can I help? Resources, training, tools, whatever it is that they need, I'll provide it. They need to take the initiative if they want to thrive here at Zen. Comes to this idea of goals and also around finding your purpose. So let's chat about that. It's a complex topic. People write big books on it, but let's try and break it down in a few bullet points. Really, the pursuit of meaningful goals or purpose-driven problem solving. Problem solving seems to be a trait of humans uniquely versus just about every other living creature. We like to solve problems, and especially new problems. We're good at adapting to solving new problems, and part of our purpose is actually finding the new problems to solve. You might have heard this advice to follow your passion. I'm actually going to say I don't think that's particularly helpful for most people. Now, there are a small subset of people, those very famous artists or musicians or athletes or elite performers in their particular field, that knew from an early age, just waking up, jumping out of bed, what their purpose in life was. And that's wonderful. I wish that was me. You probably wish it was you. For most of us, it's not. And I'll just give you some context. I'm in my mid-50s, and every year or two, I'm like, what am I doing? What's my purpose in life? I'm reevaluating my contribution to society and family relationships, business, and clients. That's totally normal. And if it's unnerving or unsettling for you, that's actually good. It prompts you to take initiative. Here's a few tips. Get good at something. Just get good at something. And we are in a very fortunate time of change at the moment where AI is coming along, actually taking over and solving a whole lot of problems that previously we would do. So those jobs are becoming replaced by AI, but opening up a whole lot of new problems to be done. So this is a wonderful time to be thinking about your purpose and getting good at something else, something new. What's a new problem to solve? If you can contribute well, solving a new problem, then you've actually found your purpose and you've actually found a lucrative insight into life. So this is the other thing. When you get good at something, you tend to get passionate about it. I think we all struggle being bad at things and we find it demoralizing. But when you get good at something, perhaps exceptional, perhaps 1% top of the world class at it, you become very passionate about it. And this quote I love: people rarely quit something they're good at. I don't know where that quote comes from. I wish I could source it, but it's such a great quote. And I think that drives a lot of my outlook on life. Worth highlighting that making a profit is a good thing in business. Why? Because people often think, I'm just here to make money, as though that's a bad thing. if you're making profit in business and helping Zen to make profit and helping our clients to make profit, that's actually a noble thing. As long as it's ethical and done in a way that is good overall for society. I'm not talking about just making money for the sake of it and being dishonest, but if we are contributing and helping businesses to grow, that's a good thing. And if your skills are growing and you're part of enabling that for clients, then perhaps that's part of your purpose. We could talk a lot more about this, but if you still have just this niggling feeling, I don't know where to start, then think about this. Perhaps this is helpful for you. Which people do you enjoy helping? That's the way to start. Let me tell you, say, people I admire, and you probably admire healthcare workers, nurses in hospitals. I don't know how they do it. If you've ever been to hospital and looked after by nurses in such a friendly, kind, and helpful way, I've just thought, how do they do it? I could never do that. And that's because that's not my purpose. But they're good at it. They love helping people in that way. That's their purpose in life. Isn't that wonderful? And I'm sure just as I could never do their job, they could never do mine. They would find it unsettling, to say the least, and not part of their purpose. Think about that. Who do you want to help most? By the way, just be very wary of taking advice from people. I am aware I'm giving advice in this video, so of course take what I'm saying with a grain of salt. Just consider it, discard it if it's not helpful for you. But be ever more mindful of all the advice you get on social. It seems full of all this advice from people, most of it ChatGPT generated. It's just guff. Be mindful of it. Often they give out this advice and wait to see what the response is before continuing, and you just wonder how much experience they really have. There are people on social, of course, and I follow a few of them, who do give great advice. That's because they've walked the talk. They've actually been successful. They're not just regurgitating quips and sound bites. They've actually lived through it and provided their perspective. That's very worthwhile, but be very wary unless they've proven it. One final thing before we wrap up, and that's just around fake growth. You'll see people often in jobs where they're given no ability to show any kind of initiative in their role, just given tasks to do, and that's not really satisfying. They find no purpose, no growth, of course. And in these scenarios, that's where you find those people that have no power, and they take a little bit of power. If you've ever had a bad experience with a retail worker because they're just using their little bit of power to assert their dominance, then you know what I'm talking about. We often see this at higher scale in government departments. We call this bureaucracy. People often adding complexity to processes just to have their little bit of power or their little bit of sense of contribution. And that, of course, is a net negative on society altogether. So how can we do our little bit to help? Well, we should try and empower people. At Zen, we try and empower the teams to take initiative and do their best work. All good companies do that. We should try and empower people and let them take initiative before they try and take power their own little way themselves. So putting this all together, it's a long-term outlook. That's what personal growth is. What's the long-term outcomes that you want to achieve? Get good at something and thank AI for this current climate of providing new problems to solve that we find ourselves in. Help people. Who do you like helping? Who are the people you most like helping? And add simplicity, not complexity, to processes. So if you can reduce the complexity in a process, make it more efficient, that's actually a very worthwhile contribution. If you're doing that in a field and industry and with people that you really enjoy being around, then I would suggest to you you've found your purpose. Hope that's helpful. I'll see you in the next one.